Hi, in this video, I want to tell you about the n8n master extension, which will significantly boost your productivity when working with n8n. It expands the capabilities of this service and makes your work much more comfortable. After installing the extension in your browser, you'll see the extension's icon appear. To get started, click on it. Here, you'll need to specify the settings for the AI operators you need. As you can see, there are 3 operators to choose from: OpenAI, Anthropic, and OpenRouter. First, you need to enter your API key. Paste your API key into this field and click Test. After a successful test, you can activate the application by clicking the Activate button. And as you may have noticed, a widget block for calling the chat will appear in the upper right corner. Through this chat, you can ask the AI questions about your workflow or about a specific node. You can expand this chat to full screen. That way, you'll have more space. We can ask, "Hi, how are you? How are you?" And the neural network already knows that it's working within the n8n environment, so it will advise you specifically about this tool. Let's clear the history. This is the main functionality, which is completely free. If you want to choose a different model, say ChatGPT 01, there's an options page for that. You can open it with this button right here. Here, on the AI tab, you can select a different model for OpenAI. As you can see, there are quite a few options here. You can test which one suits you best, see which responses you like more, and stick with that one. The same applies to Anthropic and OpenRouter. In OpenRouter, you can choose free models that won't cost you anything. Below here, you can specify prompts for contextual commands, which I'll talk about a bit later. Now let's move on to demonstrating contextual commands. So, the first command is called generate prompt. For this, let's use the IA agent node as an example. And here we'll write a task for our neural network, so that it generates a prompt for us based on this task. After that, in the n8n master context menu, we call up and select prompt generation. We wait for a little while. And as we can see, the neural network has generated a prompt for our task. If we think the prompt turned out too long, we can use another context command called optimize prompt. And as you can see, the neural network has shortened our prompt. It's become more concise. This way, we use fewer tokens when communicating with the neural network, and requests are processed faster. The next context command is called generate code. For example, let's say we have some input parameters based on which we want to calculate average values. To do this, we need to write a JavaScript function. And instead of doing it manually, we can make it easier. For this, I'll use a ready-made instruction. And here, I'll specify which parameters we need to use for the calculation. Next, we'll select the Generate Code command from the context menu. There we go, we've got the code. Now let's check it. We received a response with our average values. And we didn't have to write a single line of code, but we still got fully functional and well-commented code. The next context command is called generate JSON. Let's take the webhook node as an example. Sometimes there are situations when we need some test data from a specific application. And instead of wasting time and sending test requests, we can ask the neural network to generate a sample JSON structure for us. To do this, I'll enter a pre-prepared command and select Generate JSON from the context menu. And as we can see, the neural network created a structure for us with the necessary parameters from the required application. This can be any popular application for which you can create and save a test request. Then, we can work with these parameters in our workflow, saving a lot of time when testing different incoming data. The next context command is called explain code. For example, I'll use the code node. Here we have some previously written JavaScript code for calculating average values. And now I want to understand what this code does, especially if I haven't worked with it before. To do this, I'll select the explain code command from the context menu. Let's wait a moment. Right now, the neural network is analyzing our code, and now we can see how it works. Here we see a general description where the neural network explains what this code does. And then, step by step, it writes out what is happening here. This way, we can learn and study JavaScript if something is unclear to us, especially when working with code from unknown sources. The next command is called fix.json. For example, let's take the HTTP request node. Let's say we have some JSON, and here I'll intentionally leave an error. As you can see, an error appeared. But if it's a large JSON and finding the error is difficult, we can open the context menu and select the fix.json command. And as we can see, the error is fixed. Done. The next command is called generate curl. Let's take the HTTP request node as an example. Here we have some data, and as we can see, the export curl button has appeared. Let's click on it. And now we have a query course that we can use in development or pass on to developers so they can point out what might not be working in a specific query. It's a very useful tool when you need to find an error in the query parameters. Now, let's move on to the premium features. They can be found in the extension settings at the bottom in the settings block. 3 languages are available here. There are also quite a few settings, and I will go over each of them in more detail later. But to activate them, you need to unlock the full functionality extension. To do this, click Unlock. Here, you'll need to click Buy Key and purchase a key. Follow the link, pay for the license, and then you'll receive a license key by email, which you will enter here and click Activate. Now, I'm going to enter my key to activate the extension. As you can see, the activation was successful, and now all these settings are available to me. So, the first option is called Autosave. I'm going to activate it. Now, whenever changes are made in the workflow, they are saved automatically. As you can see, notifications have appeared. You no longer need to manually save your changes every time. This will happen automatically, so you won't lose important data if something unexpected occurs, like a power outage or your computer suddenly restarts and you forgot to save. All your data will still be there. The next options are called Autopin HTTP and Autopin AI. I'm going to activate them both. And I'll demonstrate this with a simple workflow. I'll click Test Workflow. And as you may have noticed, Autopin was triggered. This can be useful when you're working with test data. You might be making requests to external APIs using HTTP request. Each request costs money, and with this Autopin feature, you'll save money by avoiding repeated requests to external services. That way, every subsequent run, every next test, will be performed faster. This is very useful when testing your workflows. The next option is called Show Templates. I'll activate it. As you may have noticed, an icon appeared at the bottom next to the widget. When you click on it, a list of more than 200 templates pops up. All you have to do is click, copy, and paste it into your workspace. For example, there are quite a few different templates here for Gmail or, say, Slack. Or, for instance, Telegram. You can choose what fits your specific task, then just copy it and press Ctrl+V. And you'll have a ready-made workflow with comments. All that's left is to enter your settings, add your credentials, and you can start working. And now let's move on to the next premium feature, which is called Local Variables. We activated, and now in the left column, where the variables link used to be, an extension icon appears. If you click on this link, a block will appear where you can add various useful information that you can later use in your nodes. This could be, for example, your email. Let's save it. And now, at any time, we can just click and it will be copied. So at any moment, we can press Ctrl+Shift+V, a window with the parameters will open, and we can click to insert it anywhere. This makes working with frequently used parameters much easier. The next feature is called AI Error Trigger. Let's activate it. This feature enables automatic tracking of AI errors in nodes. For example, let's take the HTTP request node. I've intentionally left an error here. Now let's click Test Step. As we can see, there's an error, and a message with the error analysis automatically appears in the chat. The neural network is already aware of all the details of our node settings and, accordingly, tells us that such a domain does not exist. Based on its description and recommendations, we can make the necessary corrections and fix the error. The next useful feature is called Remember Dialog. Let's activate it, and now our chat will remember the conversation history. Let's try sending it a message. By default, the chat doesn't know the conversation history, and after refreshing the page, the dialog is deleted. But if we refresh the page right now, we can see that the history is saved, and we can continue the conversation with our AI. The next feature will let you unlock the workflow change history. This is for those who have self-hosted n8n without an enterprise license. At the top, there's an icon where the workflow history should be saved, but it's locked. With this extension, you'll be able to unlock it. To do this, open n8n master and activate the Enable History option. Now, this icon becomes available. After enabling this option, you need to reload the page. Now let's try saving some changes. An automatic save occurred, and an entry was added to the history. Now, at any time, we can copy our workflow settings from the past by clicking the Copy button and pressing Ctrl+V. This way, we'll always have a history of our workflow changes. If something changes, or if something breaks or stops working, you'll be able to restore, check the settings, and recover them if needed. The next option will be especially useful if you often copy your nodes from other workflows with pre-configured settings. Open the pop-up and activate the Node Selector option. Now, when you hover over each node, a selector will appear showing your previous workflows, where you can choose the workflow you need, as well as the specific node you want. Just copy it and press Ctrl+V. When copying AI agents, all connected tools are copied as well. This makes it much easier to add already configured nodes to your working scheme. The next setting will be especially useful for those who have a lot of workflows and want to organize them somehow. For this, the n8n master extension with the local projects option comes to your aid. After activating it, refresh the page, and now you'll see a button in the left menu to create projects. Give it a name, save it, and now you can add an existing workflow and save it. Done. We can also add more new projects. We can change the folder color as well. We can move projects between folders or delete them. If you need to change a folder's name, just double-click on it, and you can rename or delete it. These projects will exist on your local computer, and you can conveniently organize your workflows into folders. The next option can be especially useful for those who frequently test their workflow, encounter errors, and want to quickly test them. To do this, in the n8n master extension, we activate the node's execution select option. We turn it on, and now let's refresh the page. Let's take the HTTP request node as an example. Here, if I click to edit, a selector will appear to choose from previous workflow runs. Now I can simply select one of the runs, and all its output data will be filled in, and I can save it. It's also important to note that only the runs in which this specific node participated are displayed here. But keep in mind that if the node has failed with an error, there won't be any output data, and you'll see a corresponding notification. The next feature worth mentioning is called output templates. For this, let's open the webhook node, click Edit, and here you'll see the output template selector. For example, let's save this structure, call it something like test2, and now it will always be available in our list. We can select another template, save it, and then continue working with this data in our workflow. This way, you can test different JSON structures at any time by simply going back to the webhook, inserting the necessary data, saving it, and then continuing to debug your workflow. Now let's test how the n8n master extension, together with the neural network you selected, can generate a ready-made workflow based on a text description. To do this, let's open the chat and write a task. For example, I'll specify that I want to create a workflow for generating video avatars for social media. Now I'll send the request. And as you can see, the neural network has already found a ready-made template for us from the database. All we have to do is click Copy Code, then press Ctrl+V on the page. Done! The workflow is exactly what we wanted for creating video avatars for social media. This way, you can explain to the AI agent what you want, and it will try to find it from the database of ready-made templates. If it can't find one, it will create it from scratch. But it's much better when it finds a ready-made template, since those are already set up with descriptions, and all you have to do is enter your account and service settings for the workflow to work. Now let's test how n8n master can be useful when configuring nodes. For example, let's add an HTTP request node. And let's say we want to set up a connection to the OpenAI API. To do this, we can ask in the chat for help with the configuration. We'll send a request, it will analyze the settings, and send us instructions on what we need to do. As we can see, we need to change the method to post, then update the URL. Next, we need to change the authentication. Write the header. Here, insert your API key and set up the body of the request. JSON using JSON. All that's left is to change the model here and enter your request text. And that's it. The settings are ready for testing. This way, you can test and ask about the current settings in the chat. If something isn't clear, you can get the help you need in the chat. Now let's move on to fine-tuning the contextual commands. To do this, open the extension and click on the gear icon. A page with options and advanced settings will open. On the AI tab at the bottom, there will be a System Messages block. Here, you can specify your own instruction for each contextual command so that the neural network gives answers in the format you need. I've already set my own instruction here so that the AI returns a response and adds this comment at the very beginning of the code. Now, as an example, I'll write a command in the code node and choose to generate code. And as we can see, the required comment appeared right at the beginning. This way, you can adjust things if the neural network gives answers that aren't quite correct or not exactly the way you want. Accordingly, you can add your own instructions here and get responses in the format you need. If you ever need to transfer your extension settings, all projects, local parameters, and other information, there's an export option available on the options page for that. You just go to this tab, click Export Settings, and all your information is saved to a file. Then, on a new device or if you reinstall your browser, you can later import all your settings with your information. But that's only if your license is activated. Thank you for your attention. Go ahead and download the extension. In the description of this video, there are links where you can download the extension for your preferred browser. Install it, use it, and leave your feedback. All the best and have a smooth experience. Goodbye.